Please shop.
Like that.
There is a town on the Gulf Coast of Florida, just an hour north of Tampa, Weeki Wachee. As quirky as the name, the city also only has a population of around 24 people. The mayor is proud to state that she is a former mermaid. Yes, you heard me correctly. From Weeki Wachee Springs, one of the oldest roadside attractions in the state of Florida. Weeki Wachee was named by the native Seminole Indians, calling it the equivalent of Little River Spring. The spring there bubbles over 100 gallons of fresh water from the subterranean caves that have only recently been attempted to be mapped. No one has ever found how deep they truly go, but in 2007, the Karst Underwater Research Team made the attempt to send divers down to the springs and had dropped their output sufficiently. The maximum depth that they could map was over 400 fathoms. So this makes Weeki Wachee the deepest naturally formed spring in the United States of America. Now in 1946, a former WW2 SEAL named Newt Perry was looking for a new site to start potential business. He found the town Weeki Wachee on the fledgling 2-lane road US 19 just north of Tampa Bay. The springs there were filled with refused, old automobiles and refrigerators, so he began the process of cleaning them out and developed a method of pumping oxygen into a hose into the spring to allow for breathing underwater without the need for a diving tank. He suddenly realized it could look like people were thriving underwater in these clear springs, where you could see for hundreds and hundreds of feet below. He began to build a theater 6 feet underwater and then began to seek out beautiful young women whom he could train to be his mermaids. The common theory is that sailors would confuse either dolphins or manatees for mermaids, which could explain many of the sightings of the legendary sea sirens of the oceans. One particular sighting was written by Emily L. Bell of Fort Pierce. In her memoir, she explained about living in Florida in the late 1800s and claimed that her family would travel to the Jupiter Inlet just north of Palm Beach, Florida. While walking along the coast one day, she heard something large rustling through mangroves. Her husband went to investigate the noise, and they saw a strange sea creature with a human head that crawled off into the water after looking at them. She reported this sighting, and the locals told her that the creature was sighted quite often. The local Indians could not unalive it for the fear of bad luck, as it was considered by them to be a nature of spirit. In 1927, the creature was spotted again, involving soldiers from nearby Fort Pierce coming to investigate the creature. But by the time they mobilized the creature, it had vanished back into the sea. Familiar with the legendary Fiji mermaid on display at Ripley's Museum in St. Augustine, and its popularity dating back to even the 1850s, after Newton got this theater built, celebrities would make note of stopping there. A lot of movies were filmed at the springs due to their unusually clear water, and in 1959, the American Broadcasting Company, which was ABC, purchased the park. The broadcasting company began to rebuild the theater and heavily promoting it. The new theater was sunk another 10 feet for a total of 16 feet underwater, and more attractions were built above the ground with elaborate props, stages, and the springs was introduced as women all over the world aspired to be a Weeki Wachee mermaid. The mermaids of Weeki Wachee Springs are a Florida landmark. And in the earlier days, Mr. Perry didn't compensate the women who performed in the spring with money. They worked in exchange for meals and free swimsuits and basically glory.
You're fun. I thought you were a piece of shit. I honestly thought you were an asshole, and I actually like you.
See,